All right, everyone. It's another Wednesday night here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, meaning it's another Miami Wednesday night here at the voice of college football with Cam Underwood from State of the U. So you do yourself a favor as a college football fan, a Miami supporter, whatever the case might be, and you lock yourself into State of the U and you check out the Miami football and athletics coverage right there. Cam, how you doing tonight?
Good, I'm good. Ready to talk about some Canes football. Not for 2.5 hours like last week, by the way, because it was a little rough to go to work the next day. But I mean, it's always fun to be here with you guys. So I'm ready to, hang out.
All right, folks, did you hear that? Lock it in, be focused, be ready. 60 tight minutes of Miami football coverage starting ding right now. Here we go. We've got Cam on the line. Want to remind everyone out there that we've got the super chat on. And certainly if you enjoy your sports on television, online, and elsewhere, you are contributing. Therefore, you can do the same right here to a worthy cause in regards to the quality of the Miami football coverage in particular, and especially right here with Cam and the college football analysis that we bring you day to day right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. So the super chat is on. And also, of course, you can help build the channel by grabbing the Amazon link in the description section below. When you shop Amazon, think Amazon, Mark Rogers TV, Mark Rogers TV, Amazon, Voice of College Football, Amazon. Just make the connection, grab the link, and you help build the channel. All right. Miami has signed a football series to play 3 games with South Florida, which makes a whole lot of sense to me if that is not the primary non-conference game on the schedule for that particular season, which I don't believe it is. I know that the two teams have played 6 times, with Miami winning 5 between 2005 and 2013. So, Cam, what are the details?
Yeah, that was just announced yesterday, I want to say.
I believe so.
Yeah, it was really, there it goes, May 14th. Yeah, it was yesterday. Miami has signed a 3-game series with USF. It's a 2-for-1, which I know, we were talking about at least for Miami, moving forward, instead of doing, just a home and home with the likes of Toledo or Arkansas State or things like that. Like, we're the U and we need to act like it when scheduling games. And I know that, like, especially the Appalachian State series, which the second game of that home and home is going to be in Miami, because the first game had to be in North Carolina just because we needed a game for that year. And like, we were the ones who were begging, so beggars can't be choosers. So Appalachian State said, yeah, that's fine, but you got to come to Boone, North Carolina first. So we're not waiting around to see if you change your mind. So, the formation of it being a 2-for-1, 2 at Miami, 1 at South Florida is I think that that's good and strong. The games are going to be in the 2025, 27, and 28 seasons. 2025 and 2028 are going to be in Miami at Hard Rock Stadium. And then 2027 is going to be in Tampa at Raymond James Stadium. So all in NFL stadiums, by the way, because both teams play their home games there. As you're saying, Mark, it should be not, or these games are not going to be the marquee non-conference games. If you look in 2020 and 21, Miami plays Michigan State home and home. 2021 season opener feature game against Alabama in Atlanta. So that's 2 full seasons away from now, which is really kind of soon. So we kind of need to get on that. And then 22 and 23, we have Texas A&M as the marquee game. Oh my goodness, there's somebody flying outside my house. I'm sorry about that. And then there is football schedules, Miami Hurricanes. I think, and there's already been announcements for the future for Notre-Dame games on the schedules. If I'm looking around, I should have been prepared for this. I do apologize. But if I scrolled future schedules, there we go. Notre Dame. So you have Notre Dame in 2024. You have Notre Dame in 2025, which is a USF year, so that's not going to be the marquee game. And then you also have Notre Dame in 2028, which is another year of the USF contract. So in at least 2 of those seasons, Miami already has a more marquee non-conference game. So, yeah, I think that this is good. I was going back and forth in the comments on the site for the piece about this schedule announcement with a couple people. They're saying, yeah, they don't want to see anything below this, and that's just not feasible. HBCUs play, the big time Power 5 teams because they need to subsidize their athletic departments, and it is kind of just like a goodwill thing between athletic directors to, play somebody local, to your state. We play, Savannah State, or Florida A&M or Bethune-Cookman like we played this year. Yeah, you're going to blow them out, but it's good, and everybody does it. And I made the comparison in the comments to the SEC in like week 12 in November. They always have their cupcakes like way hella late, and Miami always has ours early. So I wasn't saying that we're trying to be like the SEC and playing a cupcake. I'm saying we're being better than them by playing them early and not waiting till the middle of conference season, like a week before your conference finale, and playing, our sisters of the poor, because you're just not going to lose one of those games. You're just not. It's not like basketball where, you can have a guy who hits a bunch of threes and all of a sudden Wofford beats North Carolina at the Dean Dome or something like that, which happened recently, by the way. So you're not going to have any of those things. But yeah, everybody for the schedule for non-conference, you're going to play an HBCU or an FCS team, depending on where you are. You're going to play like a group of 5 team a la Toledo. You're going to play a lower tier Power 5 team or another group of 5 team a la USF. And then maybe, like a marquee game. That's pretty much about it. So yeah, that's going to slot in for your number 2 or 3 non-conference game in those 3 years. And I think that's fine. And I think that Miami should easily win all of those games because, they should. But yeah, at least that's locked in for some time in the future. And, it's funny because, if you look at the comparison that I know people are making, UCF wanted somebody, one of the big boys in the state of Florida, to play them. But they wanted a home and home. They wanted a 1-and-1, and they're at their little bandbox on campus. Miami's not even playing on campus against FIU. They're playing that at Marlins Park because that stadium's too small. And, pride come before the fall. So I get that UCF is doing well as they're playing, recently, but they're smelling themselves. They got this hubris. They think that they're bigger than they are. You know what I mean? And, if they're trying to talk with the University of Florida about a series and they say, okay, well, we'll do for 2 for 1. And UCF says, no, it's going to be a 1-on-1. And the one here is going to be at our stadium in Orlando, not at Camping Life Stadium. And then UF said, cool, thanks, never mind. And then instead of, I don't know behind the scenes, but it looks on the outside, instead of even engaging with UCF, we said, hey, USF, who we've played 6 times before, by the way, how about y'all want this 2 for 1? Because they've already demonstrated they don't want this 2 for 1. So y'all want it? And I'm sure USF said, oh, absolutely, we want that. So it's just kind of funny to me on that. But yeah, I think, the schedule will be fine. And that is locked in already for early in September of those 3 different years in the near future.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Come on, folks. Understand what we get here each and every week with Cam Underwood from State of the U. Where do you find Miami football analysis like you do right here? So you can catch the written form from Cam and what he has outlined. And I've got to back it up from what I have surveyed on State of the U from the last 5 to 6 years as the best staff of writers that he has had, an exceptional staff of contributors there at State of the U. So please check out the content there. And of course, each and every Wednesday night. So you can do both of us a favor and yourself a favor in the long run by keeping this going by a number of ways. You like the videos, you contribute to the super chat. You also let people know, hey, every Wednesday night, there's the best Miami football talk you're going to find anywhere. You can reach out to your folks that you contact on a regular basis on social media, family and friends. Let them know that we're here each and every Wednesday night. All right, Cam, JT Sounds is asking about Keyshawn Washington from Tennessee and the chances of the U landing him.
Keyshawn, I don't think it's Washington, is it?
Keyshawn Washington from Tennessee.
No. That's hold on.
JT, let's get it together.
No, because Keyshawn Washington that's the kid from Southridge. I believe that. Hold on. I got to look because now you got that in my head, and I want to make sure. Maybe I'm not. Am I mixing that up? It's Keyshawn Lawrence. Haha. See, that's what I knew it was wrong. Yeah, so Keyshawn Washington, he's the safety/striker kid from South Dade, who's teammates with Jaden Francois and already committed. Keyshawn Lawrence, who is from Memphis. That is Corn Elder's cousin. Corn Elder, former Miami Hurricanes great, who still had that wonderful, immaculate, wonderful, great, good, and glorious kickoff return to beat Duke a few years ago. Keyshawn Lawrence, is a gigantic defensive back. He's like 6'2", like 190. Yeah, 6'2", 187 is what he weighed in at the opening regional this year. And Miami is looking to bring him in at not safety, but cornerback, which is interesting because, I mean, that's like a Mike Rump-sized dude. And especially, Jaden Francois plays a lot of corner in high school, but he's probably going to make that transition to safety, or he's planning to transition to safety in the college level, like Sheldrick Redwine did after a year and a half at Miami. So, yeah, that opens up a slot for a cornerback. And so Miami has been recruiting Corn Elder's cousin, Keyshawn Lawrence, from Memphis. And he's actually going to be down to Miami this summer for his official visit. And, Miami has been in the business of selected spring or summer off official visits for top tier kids who they're really trying to push for. Now, I know last cycle that didn't pay off with any of those kids, but getting, a Kevin Harris, getting a Jordan Battle, getting, those guys, the top kind of guys who were looking to take visits early and decide early on campus. If that's how they're setting their personal timeline, then Miami would be incredibly stupid to say, you know what, if you're going to make a decision early, then we're not going to be a party to your recruitment. Like, that's dumb. Like, if a kid wants to lock it in, then let him lock it in, especially a kid of this caliber. So, yeah, I think that there is a chance. He did visit Keyshawn Lawrence, that is, with his 7-on-7 team before, so he has been on campus. I would like to see an unofficial, like a full unofficial. And like when you're traveling with a 7-on-7 team, you're paying for a little bit, of the travel with the 7-on-7 organization, but they have sponsorships and things like that where kids are not really coming out of the pocket. I want to see him pay his way down here another time. And that's kind of something we talked about a few weeks ago about what indicates being really interested, especially from an out-of-state kid. So getting him on campus for a second time for an official visit would be great. And yeah, I think that moves are being made. I think that he is a realistic option. I don't think it's a pie in the sky kind of thing, especially with the familial connection. I don't know how close Keyshawn and Corn are, but with that connection and, a family member of yours from your same city came down to Miami and had an outstanding career and, got a good education and was well taken care of and things like that, that should only bode well. So, yeah, I mean, Miami does need to seal the deal, with the defensive coaches, Ephraim Bonda leading that charge, Blake Baker, the defensive coordinator, Manny Diaz, your former defensive coordinator, new head coach. So, yeah, there is a realistic shot, but let's get him on campus in the middle of June. P.S., by the way, that's when I'm taking my personal vacation. Like, I'm not going to be in these United States that weekend. So whatever happens, well, I mean, it's actually going to be more than that because it's like an 8-day trip. Anyway, but still, I'm just saying, if you're expecting to hear from me, then number one, that's not going to happen. Number two, that's not going to happen. Number three, we'll still be on it and just hopefully things go well. But yeah, he is Keyshawn Lawrence, being very serious now, is a very realistic target for Miami. And we just have to keep pushing because there's other teams out there who want him as well.
Not that people care about my personal plans, but it is my channel. I just came back from Houston over the weekend. I had a nice trip. I've got 2 other trips planned coming up. So, yes, it's summertime. Time to enjoy and take a little time off. But right after the show last week, I was out the door and then back on Monday and got a couple other visits elsewhere and a trip with the daughter planned as well. All right. Again, the super chat is on, and I just remind everyone of that because of the time that Cam takes each and every week to provide us with exceptional analysis of Miami football, and this is not something that he needs to do. Me as well. So we appreciate your contribution. All right, and keep in mind, now that we've cleared spring practice and Cam has exhausted the analysis on spring practice, we'll start to dive into the schedule, especially the Florida game, of course, positional units, position breakdowns, and, of course, highlighted by the quarterback position as we head toward August and media days before that in the SEC. All right, we also have JT asking Cam, do you think we land an offensive lineman before Paradise Camp? We have no tackles.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is that. Before Paradise Camp is going to be earlier this year because of the NCAA dead period. And I know that Miami is going to start fall camp a week earlier because we're playing a game a week earlier, and there's already been clearance for that. But that's going to be in June. Paradise Camp, that is, as opposed to like late in July as it has been towards, the end or like of that window. Are we going to land an offensive lineman before then? So you're basically talking like in the next 6 weeks? Yes. I don't. Yeah, I think that's I think that's possible. Summertime we've seen historically for the Miami Hurricanes. If I think back to previous recruiting classes, summertime is when movement starts to happen. You start to really focus in on the guys that you want in the class. But some of the mid-table kind of recruits, like not the top of the class guys, but some of those guys who you'll take in your class, and especially offensive linemen, you're probably not going to get 5 game-ready dudes who are going to step in as freshmen. So you're going to get guys who you already intend to be 2 years down the line players, even though they have, good skill and size and physicality and athletic traits and things of that nature. So those mid-table guys, they start to pop earlier because, spots are scarce. And we're not going to hold a spot for just Johnny Random. We're going to hold a spot for Alex Leatherwood, who went to Alabama and started day one. You know what I mean? Like when Miami was recruiting him, we're going to save a spot for him. But those other guys who are in the class, even like a Danny Isadora, who played here for 3 years, but he didn't start playing until his 3rd year from Cypress Bay out in Weston. Saw him play all the way through his high school career. Who's the other one? Plays for just any of those kind of offensive linemen. God, the kid went to Western. He plays still in the NFL. I can't remember his name. Oh my God. John Feliciano. There it is. He's another guy who popped kind of early because no, he's not everybody's All-American. And yes, he had to redshirt before he played, but yeah, he kind of hopped in the boat in that summertime time frame. And especially with Miami really trying to continue the momentum for this class, I think it's very possible in the next 6 or 7 weeks that there is an offensive line recruit before Paradise Camp. Before or at Paradise Camp, yeah.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We've got a call coming in, so we will give it a shot. Who's on the line?
This is Anthony. I have a question for Cam Underwood. Can you ask Cam if I'm kind of afraid with the Clemson's going to be done. I know players can't play for 8 years, but I'm kind of scared with them constantly getting 5-star quarterbacks to commit to them, that they're going to be dominating for the next 10 years. That's what I'm saying. With the PJ Ukulele commitment, we're not going to beat Clemson in the ACC championship. Can you ask Cam about that?
You just did.
I didn't hear his answer.
You just did, sir.
Right? Yeah. No, I was waiting for you to finish. Well, first of all, thanks for the question. This comes to the point where Miami has to build a championship caliber program. And yes, Clemson is a daunting foe, obviously. I mean, just like Alabama, just like a Georgia, just like Ohio State, any of those teams, they have a lot of talent. DJ Uiagalelei from Bellflower, California, he's the next 5-star quarterback recruit.
Question.
Sure,
it's a transmission froze up. Cam, you with us? We good?
Yeah. I'm sorry about that. Little buffering there. But yeah, no, Clemson is loaded, obviously. Like they're good. They could have the most highly rated recruiting class in the history of recruiting rankings this year. Yet and still, they got to step on that field, and somebody is going to play against them. And Miami has to get to the point where if we do what we need to do, we can compete with them. So it does come down to recruiting. It comes to team building. It comes to execution, player development, all of those things. But that mentality of being scared, I don't have that. I never have, and I never will. I will admit when Miami does not have the talent to compete against teams, because we've seen that happen, like even in the last few years. But I will respect every opponent, but I fear none. And I'm on the Manny Diaz train of this new energy and building towards being a champion. And yeah, Clemson are the guys on top, just like we used.
Okay, go ahead. We lost you.
No. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, internet. Like I was saying, Clemson is on top now, but so Miami used to be as well. And to be the man, you got to beat the man. And if Miami now at this time is the hunters and not the hunted, then let's go hunt.
So Cam brings up a few points here in regards to sports being cyclical. Now, if you don't have the resources and you don't have flat out categorizing everything down to resources, then you have no chance to compete. But if you are in a certain area of the country because of recruiting situations, if you have the resources, if you have the brand, the prestige, you've got the money, you've got all those things, the facilities, and we know who those programs are, then yes, sometimes they're mismanaged. Sometimes they go through difficult times because of certain situations, much of their own doing. A USC a few years ago, in Oklahoma in the 90s, a Texas just recently, on and on and on. But you can feel good about the outlook if your administration and athletic director make the right moves, get the right guy in place, and then can go to work, because you have a chance. And in Miami, you have more than a chance. The tables can turn very quickly.
The reason why I'm scared, Mark, the reason why I'm saying that is because we don't develop. It seems like Florida develops all the skill positioning except quarterback. That's why I'm saying Clemson are able to recruit the 5-star quarterbacks from like California or Texas or something like that, or Georgia.
Yeah, but let me jump in right there. Miami got Kyle Wright as the #1 quarterback in America from California, and he didn't pan out. So Miami has gotten those guys before. If you look at the guys who are in the quarterback room right now, one is from Texas, one is from Nevada, and one is from Georgia. I mean, and the other one of them is N'Kosi Perry, who was a record-setting quarterback from Ocala. So I get where you're coming from, and I get that looking at Clemson now is a daunting task, but I'm never going to be scared, and I'm going to be confident in the fact that I believe that this regime can get Miami where we need to go. We're not there now, and it is a daunting task. I'm not saying it's easy, but then again, Clemson took years to become what we're seeing now. You know what I mean? Like, Miami used to beat up on them, and now we were the bullies, and then we got bullied the last 2 times we played. So, yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying about quarterbacks and like the talent level, but that's what, we're paying Manny Diaz and his staff the big bucks to do, to go recruit the guys that we need and develop the players so that we have the team to go beat not just Clemson, but anybody.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please subscribe to the channel if you love college football. It's pretty much as simple as that. We've got another call coming in for Cam Underwood from State of the U. And we'll get to some of the comments and questions in the live chat. There's been a few good ones. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, how's it going? This is Coach Clay.
What up,
yes,
Coach?
Sir. What's going on tonight?
Nothing much, man. Enjoying your guys' chat. I got to tell you, I appreciate the content that you all put out.
Thank you.
I tune in all the time. My question would be, with the playbook so far that we've seen from Coach E, what do you think he still has left in the bag of motions and stuff like that? And what do you expect to see? Do you think that's 60-70%, or do you think that's everything that we're going to probably see, along with some of the things that are going to highlight the players that we have?
I don't think that we've seen half of the playbook, honestly. I think that we've seen, maybe half of the motions, but not all together. Like, yeah, there's been some shifting and things like that. But, I mean, the offense was pretty vanilla, in terms of variety, this spring. I only went to the scrimmage at Traz Powell. I did not go up to Orlando, but from, our guy Gabby Rudia, who was there, and, other Canes friends and fans who were up there. Yeah, I mean, there were some plays, but it was not categoric, just like going through really expansive and things. So, yeah, I think there's going to be additions and adaptations as time moves on. And like I've said on here a couple of times, the final product of the offense is going to be different based upon who's quarterback. So good, because each of those 3 guys has a different skill set. So, yeah, I don't even think that we've seen 50% of what there could be. Plus the fact on top of that, in the spring, Jeff Thomas is out. Brian Hightower was out. Lorenzo Lingard was out. You still don't have a set offensive line, and you're getting all kinds of other. I mean, Brevin Jordan was out as well. Corey Gaynor was out. So, I mean, that's like 5 starting level players, 6 on offense already right there. So, yeah, you're going to dumb it down a little bit when you're having Marshall Few, who's on scholarship and was a first-team All-State high school performer at like the 5A level in Florida. But if Marshall Few is playing, 500 snaps for this team, that's not an advantageous situation for anybody. But he's playing 40 snaps in the spring scrimmage. So I say all that to say that, yeah, there's plenty more in this offense, and it's going to develop even further once we know who the quarterback's going to be.
Dennis Wilson, I don't know why Les Miles' name came up, but he is a big name coach. Just by the way, yes, the man is a big name coach. He has made a lot of mistakes in terms of clock and game management, but he's won a national championship and gone to another national championship game. That pretty much qualifies him as a big name coach. All right, let's see what else we've got from the live chat. Now, keep into consideration when you ask some of these questions that many of them, and I don't expect all of you have watched all the content, so we will repeat topics and revisit some of the questions to a certain extent, but we're not going to talk about a certain positional unit over and over and over and ask the same questions. There was somebody, and I've lost track of the exact question, but they had an interesting question concerning, and this goes beyond Miami football in particular, Cam, but the paying of players, the ability of players to benefit from their likeness, from autographs, and first of all, where you stand on that, and secondly, whether players might be attracted, if that was ever passed, to places like Miami, USC, places in larger markets.
Yeah, I mean, hold on. What was the end of that question?
That basically, if you play in Miami or LA at USC or somewhere like that, that you would have an advantage as a college football player over a place like Norman, Oklahoma.
Well, I mean, nationally, maybe you might have an advantage in a major market, situation. But I mean, there's plenty of premium programs on the college football level that are not in metropolitan areas. I mean, I would say that most are in non-metropolitan areas. Like there's no, championship D1 school in Manhattan. I mean, yeah, there's Columbia, which is an Ivy League school, which is a wonderful institution, or NYU, but nobody's saying, oh, they're winning a college football national championship. So yeah, if you have a Los Angeles, which is, a large city, obviously, but they're not even in downtown. Those schools are, outside of the city center. So yeah, maybe you might, but you can't tell me that kids in Norman, Oklahoma, or Tuscaloosa, Alabama, or Ann Arbor, Michigan, or Austin, Texas. Okay, now that's a bigger issue. I mean, but not as big as
State College, Pennsylvania.
Right, you know what I mean? But you can't tell me that those kids, I mean, if you're good, like Saquon Barkley couldn't have benefited to the level that Mark Walton did at Miami when he was at Penn State. Wrong. Why? Because Saquon Barkley was really, really good. So I think that superstars, I mean, and obviously I have no idea what the structure of the payments are going to be. You know what I'm saying? Or even possible. I don't even know if there's going to be payments. I don't even know if it's going to get passed, but I don't think that it would be the superstars that would be like there would be an imbalance in compensation, likeness, whatever you want to call it, for the top level star players, your all conference, all American household name people. It would be those secondary level people, your random right guard. He's nobody's, right tackle or left tackle or center, like that offensive lineman, your third linebacker who, outside of Miami, because we all know all three linebackers because they came in together. But, your number 3 linebacker at Wisconsin, your number 4 cornerback at Iowa State, those are the people who I think that maybe in that year when they're not at a marquee level, there could be a disparity. But in general, I don't think that college football is based upon a metropolitan area as such. So if you're not in one, I don't think it would be that big of a difference.
My 2 cents on the subject is I don't believe that college football players or college athletes should be paid, meaning the quarterback makes $50,000, the running back makes $20,000, or even if it's equitable, because one guy's the star quarterback and he contributes a ton. The other guy's the long snapper who never sees the field except for 3 times a game. Therefore, you're going to pay them the same. But I do believe that they should benefit from their likeness and from signing autographs. And I think that that could be sanctioned through a school. So let's say, for example, another case in point in the middle of nowhere, Starkville, Mississippi State football. They're in the SEC. It's a huge program, but they're in the middle of nowhere. But in that town and in that region, I worked there, they're big names. They're the stars. They don't have an NFL team. They could go down to Joe Blow's furniture store, car lot, for 5 hours on a Saturday afternoon and have 5 Mississippi State football players show up and sign autographs at $10 a pop. And the school could take some reasonable percentage, meaning like 1 or 2% for administrative costs, pay the players the rest of the amount of money. And to further Cam's point, I don't think there's such an advantage of playing in a major metro area as a college football team, i.e. Georgia Tech, Miami, USC, because just look at the crowds at places like Ann Arbor, Michigan, Norman, Oklahoma, State College, Pennsylvania, versus some of the struggles that some of those schools have in drawing fans if they're not winning big, because they've got to compete against the beach and the weather and the mountains and the nightlife and all the professional teams in town.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with that.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
How you doing, Mark? And how you doing, Cam?
Doing great. Thanks so much for calling. What you got?
All right, I have a quick question, man, because everybody running scared. And I have a question for Cam because I know he's going to set the record straight for this one. Is 4 losses a disappointing season? And do you guys think that 4 losses is acceptable for this year? Because I'm telling everybody that we shouldn't lose more than 2 games or 3 games if we're unlucky. But people are really, really comfortable with 8-4. They're like, let's go 8-4 and get it out the way. And I can't. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not satisfied with that, and I'm not even happy with that. So that's my only question. Thank you.
Yeah, I am not a person who believes that 4 losses is acceptable. Now, there was a time when my answer would be different. You know, coming off of a losing season with Al Golden at 5-7, 8-4 is 3 games, you know, progress forward towards, you know, being a 10-win team. And, you know, eventually we got there with Mark Richt, but those are steps along the right path from a different place. Now, with a pretty settled program, even with a coaching change and things like that, no, 4 losses is not acceptable. It's not. No, I would not in any way feel good about a season with 4 losses. Even if we beat Florida and Florida State, 4 other losses then really means that we screwed the pooch in these other games. You know what I mean? Because if you're talking 4 losses, no, that's not acceptable for me. So obviously, we're not at a place where if Manny Diaz found a way to lose 4 games this year, including with or without a bowl game, I don't really care. But you lose 4 games this year, like, we're not going to fire Manny. You know, we're not going to torch the program and then just start over again, you know, scorched earth style after year 1. But no, 4 games is not what I'm looking to lose. That's not what I'm looking to be looking at the record being. I don't find that as being acceptable for the University of Miami. And yeah, there are a lot of moving parts and there are new faces around. And, you know, if we're in that, I mean, is it possible? Yeah. You know, if we go 9-3 in the regular season, you lose to Clemson in a bowl, you know, in a ACC championship game. If you lose to them, you lose a bowl game. You know, if you lose them, they're at 5 losses, which is not going to be, you know, not going to leave anybody feeling good, but it's within the realm of possibilities. So, you know, like I've said before, even with the returning starters on the offensive line, they're probably going to be playing new positions. So you have 5 new starters up front. You're going to have a new quarterback. And I would even call N'Kosi Perry a new quarterback because he has new actual coaching for once and, you know, player development and things like that. So hopefully the player that we've seen we get rid of some of the bad things we saw from him and keep some of the good and even have more future development. So, yeah, there's a lot of learning. And this team just has to learn how to win games again. You know, because we found ways to lose last year. You know, there were things that went wrong when they could have gone right. Or, you know, we skirted by the skin of our teeth 2 years ago in that run where we were 10-0 and number 2 in America, you know, finding ways to win games. And look, luck or what, you know, a bounce or whatever, that team found ways to win those games, even in spite of all that was in front of them. And then eventually, you know, luck ran out and we lost those games to end the 2017 season. But we had to learn how to win again because those close games last year, Miami did not win. So, yeah, that's a long answer. But no, 4 losses is not acceptable to me, and it's not something I'm looking for. And I'm really looking for everybody to step up and prove points, you know, this year.
From my vantage point, there's nobody on the schedule that's decidedly better than Miami by any stretch. There are 2 teams on the schedule that are very comparable, Florida State and Florida. There are a handful of teams that are capable of beating Miami, but would lose to them or should lose to them and probably would beat them 3 or 4 times out of 10, meaning the teams that we've seen compete with Miami in recent years that shouldn't. Virginia Tech, Duke, Georgia Tech, and others. Virginia last year. But it wouldn't be a shock if a Virginia beat a Miami, if a Duke beat Miami. They wouldn't, or I'm sorry, it shouldn't It wouldn't be a shock to me, at least, but they shouldn't win that game, and they wouldn't win that game the majority of times. But on one given Saturday, of course, as we've seen, not just with Miami, but with other programs, that can happen. So for me, can Miami go undefeated? Yes. Do I expect it? No. What do the probabilities say? Well, that they probably split the Florida State games. Let's say they split those two games. They have to play the Noles in Tallahassee, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so they do have to play those two games, neutral site and on the road. So it's feasible that they lose both of those games and then trip up against somebody else. Again, I'm talking probabilities, not that they are not as good as Duke, Georgia Tech, Virginia, fill in the blank. But out of those string of games, other ACC games against 7 opponents, that they lose one of those and they finish 9-3.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that is possible, but four losses or more is not something that I'm looking at as a positive for any season, really. And again, just because the program is in a way different spot, when you come from 4-8 or 5-7 or 3-9 or something like that, yeah, 8-4 is a big step forward. But Miami, the floor, the absolute basement, foundational floor, should be 8-4, 9-3. So yeah, 4 losses for me is not something I'm looking for. Towards the the question I was asked.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, with Cam Underwood from State of the U. We're here just about each and every Wednesday night at 8:30 Eastern Time talking Miami football. We've got 117 folks on the line, and just imagine this. Imagine if you went out and thought, who loves college football? Because we've got a number of people on the line that are not Miami fans, but I'm guessing 85% of the people are going to be Miami fans. So if you're a Miami fan, and I'm sure you know others, imagine if you grabbed 5 or 10 people and brought them on. We've had as many as 350 on the line a couple weeks ago, probably during the height of the recruiting period, right around National Signing Day. But if you brought those people on, this is about as dead as it's going to get in May. And we build up toward college football season. We could really pack a punch here in the next few months. So help us out. Go out there, tell people that we're here and we deliver the best in Miami football talk. We've got Power Hitter P on the line, and just because he chipped in with a couple bucks for Cam and I, how do you view the DBs with their injuries?
I mean, there's still just jobs up for grabs. Trajan Bandy, etched in stone at one corner. I think DJ Ivey is ahead of Al Blaze Jr. at another corner. But both of those guys are going to play. So those are 3 guys right there. Then you need Christian Williams. You need Christian Williams to step up more than Corey Couch, because Corey Couch is another very undersized cornerback. And like I said, he's 5'9", as is Trajan Bandy, but Bandy's like 190. Like, he's stocky. He's solidly built. Corey Couch is like 160 pounds. So like, you can't really rely on him from a physical standpoint. So yeah, you really need Christian Williams to step up. And then you need, at safety, again, I've been saying it, Miami's going to have 3 NFL players in Amari Carter, Gervin Hall, and Bubba Bolden. And whatever, rotation of those guys, but those, they're going to play and play plenty. And then Romeo Finley, he was even working at safety, not just striker, a little bit in the spring. So if you want to, move him as a box safety or whatever, and like basically take that striker position, move his heels back 2 yards, so he's kind of more as a secondary player than a linebacker player. He's another player with ability in that secondary kind of area. So yeah, I think that's really going to have to be the rotation. If anybody else besides those guys steps up, it's going to have to be because of really top tier player development. That would be, I really don't want to see him on the field, but look, if Robert Knowles, I don't want to see him on the field, but you know what I mean? Like, he's going to have to really take a gigantic step forward. Any of these other guys on the roster, they're going to have to take a gigantic step forward. So yeah, I really think that it's going to be, at corner, it has to be Bandy, Blades Jr., Ivy, and probably Christian Williams as your top 4. And at safety, Hall, Carter, Bolden, with maybe some Finley mixed in. And they're going to play Robert Knowles a couple snaps, but I don't want it, because anytime he's on the field, the other team scores. And this has been proven as a case over years. Like, he just blows assignments and misses tackles, even in spring games. He looks the part physically, but he just simply can't play. And he puts the defense, he compromises compromises the defense and puts them at a liability every time he steps on the field. It's just, I'm sorry, that's just how it is. But yeah, I would say that those would have to be your top 7 or 8 at defensive back. And, hopefully they're going to be helped by a solid front 7 with a strong pass rush and some linebackers who really know what they're doing.
We appreciate the hundreds of comments in the live chat. Don't forget to like the video. So we've got about 121 on the line, which means there's probably been about 400 people cycle through. Usually once these videos post, within a couple days, we've got a couple thousand to 3,000 to 4,000 views, and the likes aren't as high as they should be. So please, click the button. It takes 1 second to like the videos. We've got Power Hitter P wanting another question in here, so he has joined in to the Super Chat once again, asking who would the real threat be in the Coastal Division?
I mean, Miami's biggest threat has been themselves. I've said that for years, and I know I sound like a broken record, especially with Miami not backing that up. But actually, I would say that Miami's failings have really backed me up on the fact that Miami is their own biggest enemy. If Miami does what they need to do, nobody else can mess with us. I mean, David Hale, I don't know if he's still at ESPN or not, but he was at ESPN for a time. And he, has his own site, and he was an ACC writer, and he wrote a piece about recruiting and how the talent level of the teams in the ACC is very disparate, because your top tier teams on talent. Ooh, one time for that alliteration. Shout out to me. But your top tier teams on talent are Clemson, Miami, and Florida State by far. It's not even close. It's not even like marginal, 9.8 to 8.7. There's a gigantic gulf in talent of these teams. And if you went through that list, Clemson and Florida State are not in the Coastal Division. So there's, by definition, you can go look this piece up, that he wrote, David Hale, I think it's davidmhale.com or net is his website, and he talked about the recruiting numbers in the ACC. There's a gigantic gulf between Miami and everybody else in terms of talent, and that's just on recruiting. That's not even taking into account the fact of all of the transfers that Miami got who are going to play big roles. So no, I don't think that there's any other team that you can look at outside of the team in the mirror if you're a Miami fan, if you're a Miami player, if you're a Miami coach. Because Miami's failings in so many ways over so many years is what has enabled every other team to flourish in the Coastal in that time. Now, if I have to, play by the rules and say, okay, well, you asked me about another team, not Miami. I mean, I guess Virginia Tech? I mean, but they lost like half their program to transfers. I mean, nobody knows who's going to play quarterback for them. I know everybody's talking about Miami's quarterback situation. Their quarterback, who was coming off of a record-setting season and then a solid-ish second year as a redshirt sophomore, who's from Michigan, by the way, he decided, no, I'm going to go to the NFL. I'm going to leave. And everybody's like, well, what? Because we're building everything around you, buddy. And he's like, oh, well, build around somebody else because I'm gone. So, I mean, there are questions on every other team. Mac Brown is trying to rebuild a tire fire in Chapel Hill. Duke is trash rap, and we should blow them out, especially for finding a way with this terrible offense last year to lose to them. Georgia Tech is having a whole-scale paradigm change and scheme shift after being that infernal, cursed triple veer, wishbone, whatever option for all of those years. And then there's somebody else in the Coastal, Virginia, and they're trash, and we shouldn't have lost to them. I'm sorry. And yes, this is me being an arrogant Miami fan. I know this is what people talk about when you say, oh, well, yeah, you guys haven't done anything. That proves my point that the only team that can stand in Miami's way is Miami in the Coastal. And unfortunately for us, who are Miami fans and followers and bloggers, writers, whatever, Miami has succeeded in finding a way to stand in our own way more often than not ever since we joined the ACC. Duh, we already know Miami's never won an ACC championship. We've only been to the ACC championship game one time since joining the league. But that's proof of my point. Miami is the team that can stand in Miami's way, not anybody else. And Miami has proven that over the course of time. And Manny Diaz's job and his staff and the players and everybody's job is to not stand in their own way, to play fast, violent, angry, and with precision like Miami Hurricanes. So we don't stub ourselves in the foot. We don't cut off our legs when there's no reason. And again, when you're looking at all these things, I know I already referenced this article about recruiting. when you have guys to the caliber of Amari Carter, Gervin Hall, and Bubba Bolden, there's no reason for a Robert Knowles to be on my field. Period. It's just like there was no reason for AJ Highsmith to ever have played. There's no reason Nantambu Akil Fentress should have been out there. Even Dallas Crawford, who was an all-state safety and was pretty decent, but they kept switching in between running back, safety, so it's hard to get any flow. But that's what I'm talking about. Even small decisions like that of playing that guy 200-300 snaps on defense when he shouldn't be playing at all, that's standing in Miami's way. That kind of a thing. Keeping Mark D'Onofrio around for all these years when the offense was rolling and the defense couldn't stop anybody. Mark Richt deciding that he wasn't going to give up play calling and fire his son and moving on to a different direction. And I know that would have precipitated having to fire or let go Thomas Brown also, who was the named offensive coordinator. There's been instance after instance after instance of Miami standing in their own way. And I think that I've long held this belief, and I think that the proof is in the pudding. Miami is the team that can stand in Miami's way. And that's my answer.
I'm the outsider here. Here's my perspective: is that for about a 10-year period, and I know this precedes the ACC and goes back to the Big East, but we still have the two same programs involved. That from about 1995, Virginia Tech had a breakout year. They beat Texas in the Sugar Bowl, and that was the emergence of Frank Beamer really lifting that program. From about that time, for about 10 years, Virginia Tech was extremely good. They were a top 10 program almost every season from about 1995 to about 2005. And then they started to slip. They became more of a top 25 program. They have been the biggest threat to Miami football over the last 20 to 25 years consistently. And they have not consistently had as good a talent, but they have on the field been the best program outside of Miami and sometimes better than Miami. They've been the best program again, in recent football memory in that division, if we're looking at that collection of teams, whether they were in the Big East at the time or now the ACC. Other than that, you've got a collection of schools that have taken turns at being decent, but have generally been winning between 5 and 8 games. Pitt, Georgia Tech, Virginia, take any of those schools, North Carolina, Duke. Duke has been much better the last half of David Cutcliffe's tenure than the first half. They were abysmal for about 5 years under him, and he's brought them to a level of respectability where they win 6 or 7 games, sometimes 8, made an ACC championship game in 2013. But those teams, you grab any of those teams and look at the records, look at the recruiting rankings, and you will see just a glut of mediocrity, slightly better than a lot of recruiting classes that rank somewhere between 30 and 55, and a lot of records that bounce up and down between 7 and 5 and 6 and 6 and 8 and 4 and 5 and 7 for all those teams. For Miami, they have had a top 15 roster for quite a long time, and especially here in the last 4 to 5 years. And listen to these recruiting rankings. So I did a study here that prepped me for a number of videos. Listen to these recruiting rankings. This does not take into account 2019 because I collected this information before the last recruiting class was signed. Virginia, these are the last 5 recruiting classes. I wanted to outline what we currently see on this team's roster. For Virginia, 59, 58, 63, 50, 33. Pitt, 46, 37, 30, 46, 44. Virginia Tech, a little bit better, 24, 26, 42, 29, 28. Duke, 63, 47, 33, 52, 61. North Carolina, again, we talked about this a couple months ago. Surprisingly, because of the abysmal record, surprisingly, North Carolina, 20, 29, 32, 28, 30. Georgia Tech, 54, 48, 60, 44, 54. Miami, you heard all those numbers. A lot of 50s and 60s and 40s. Miami, 8, 12, 22, 27, 12. It's not close.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, even in a bad recruiting year, the floor was 27. And that's not even getting into some of the names from those years. And I mean, I'm not going to go look it up now, but I mean, I'm sure we can go back into the names. And like, I know that there's this, I mean, there's a Miami bias in recruiting. There just is. I mean, guys like Joe Jackson, he should have been a 5-star. recruit. He was a 4-star because he committed early and he didn't take any visits or anything like that. Michael Pinckney, I don't know how he was only a 3-star, but that guy's been honorable mention All ACC for 2 years. He should have probably been, second team All ACC one of those years. And like there's guys who overperform their station in recruiting. But again, the baseline floor for Miami's recruiting of talent in a given year is at or above the ceiling for any other team in the division. Like there's 2 12s and an 8 in the last 5 years for Miami in recruiting. Like nobody else had higher than like 24, like for any one given year, let alone a top 10, that could have been top 5 if that broke. Miami is the team that can stand in Miami's way. And yeah, I know that guys go to college and they develop over time and they get better and, guys play well. You had the Thornhill kid from Virginia and you had, the Mark Fields kid from Duke. Yeah. But that's one dude. You want to talk about all the guys Miami has? You know what I mean? And it's just, the previous regime 2 regimes ago with Al Golden, they did numbers on offense and couldn't stop anybody. They couldn't stop toddlers, from moving down the field. You flip that around with a championship caliber defense. And I cannot wait until Bill Connolly, my SB Nation, he's a full-time SB Nation writer, but he does great analytic stuff and he's doing his previews and everything. And I saw he already posted the web kind of statistical map for Miami's defense. And you cannot look at that footprint for the success rates and everything that Miami did on defense and think that's anything other than championship caliber, except for the offense pissed it away. Like it has been a different side of the ball, or for whatever reason, playing guys and not playing guys and making these decisions and But Miami is the team that has been in Miami's way, and that is the team that can stand in Miami's way. And if Miami does what Miami needs to do, nobody in the Coastal can mess with us. And that's just a verifiable, proven fact. And again, it's only been the one time that Miami has actually played to that ability in 2017. But the absence of that level of play, the fact that they have stood in their way, their own way, Miami's own way, for so many years proves the point. Miami needs to do what Miami needs to do, even if it's by smoke and mirrors like it was in 2017, or if it's blowing people out by 50 a game like it was in 2000. Miami is the team that can hold Miami back, and I hope to the good Lord that this year they do not succeed in doing so, and we actually see greatness again, or going towards that way. 11-1, 10-2. Maybe a 9-3 with a bad bounce or something like that. You know what I mean? But no, the team that could stand in the way of Miami is Miami. Nobody in the Coastal has a single player that frightens me at all. I mean, you can take that, you can clip it, GIF it, meme it, whatever you want to do, but there's just not.
So if we frame those stats another way, we can put it this way. There are 6 other teams in the Coastal. I looked at 5 recruiting classes. That's 30 recruiting classes. If you take Miami's worst, there are 3 out of 30 recruiting classes that are better than Miami's worst class in 5 years.
So don't talk to me about another team having the requisite talent to beat Miami in the Coastal Division. That quite simply does not exist. I mean, with 1/10 of the collective recruiting classes outside of Miami's was better than Miami's worst in the Let's go on to the next question, because I'm just going to keep repeating this.
Cam Underwood, State of the U. Please join him and the rest of the staff right there. We've got 144 on the line. That's about where we've topped out. So you know what happens each week, you guys, is that you catch up late to the notification. And I do apologize tonight because I sent out the notification about 10 to 12 minutes prior to us going on air. Typically, I do it sometime early in the morning or when I get home from work about 6:30, so about 2 hours prior to air, to give you guys a sufficient notice. But also, if you're not subscribed here, then there's no excuse for you. So what happens is we've got the most people on the line when we sign off. So what you need to do is, most likely Cam has touched upon, and I assure you that over the last 5 to 6 weeks, Cam has certainly answered your question or reviewed whatever situation, positional battle, question, topic that you wanted to address concerning Miami football. So catch all the other videos if you have yet to do that. And certainly if you jumped on the line after we did, then you wait for the video to post and you can watch it all very soon. Any parting shots, Cam, or should we take one more question?
We can take another question before parting shots.
All right. What do we got? Anybody here with anything decent? Shaq Smith, Clemson linebacker. I don't know if you're aware of him going into the transfer portal.
Yeah, I will say, so look for another question while I answer this one, because this one's going to be quick.
Okay.
Shaq Smith from Clemson is a linebacker. I believe he has 2 years of eligibility left. He's in the transfer portal because he wasn't going to play at Clemson. I am down for Miami contacting any quality player who could potentially, be an asset moving forward. That includes this gentleman. I heard a couple people saying that he's from the DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia. That is that. And he might be going back up to Maryland to be closer to home. That's fine. But yeah, I would kick the tires on pretty much anybody that you hear of who's, coming from a Power 5 school or that Miami thinks that they could have a slot for. I'm all for at least contacting those guys. And Miami desperately needs linebackers. So yeah, I would at least give him a call and let him say, hey, coach, thanks for calling or texting or tweeting or DMing me or whatever. But I'm looking in another way, but thanks. That's the least that we should be doing. So there's that. Boom, period. I was going to mention earlier today that the ACC network announced the kickoff times for the first 3 weeks of the season on the new ACC network. And that includes 2 Miami games because the opener against the University of Florida has already been announced as a 7 o'clock kickoff on ESPN on August the 24th. In week number 1, after that, Miami has a bye before starting ACC play week 2 at Mack Brown's North Carolina Tar Heels. That game is going to be an 8 p.m. primetime kickoff on the ACC network. The week after that, September the whatever that is, 12th or 14th, excuse me. That is going to be the home opener against Bethune-Cookman, and that's going to be a 4 o'clock kickoff again on the ACC network. So, and then you add in the November 23rd late season game against FIU has already previously been announced as a 7 o'clock p.m. kickoff. And we have kickoff times for 4 of the 12 regular season games already this year. And if you missed any of that because I was going a little bit quickly, there's an article up about that on stateoftheu.com, and you can go check it out.
There's been some concerns about Florida's recruiting in recent weeks. I think that they've been a bit overblown, but there was a disturbing story concerning Chris Steele, who left and had some concerns about his roommate. And then they were not taken seriously, and he left and went back, I believe, to Southern California. That's where he's from. But anyway, then there was also the kid where Florida has the pipeline to Lakeland, a particular high school that I'm sure you're aware of. That I'm not in Lakeland, but I know that they signed like 3 or 4 consecutive kids from there just this past recruiting class and lost the number 1 running back in the nation, or arguably the number 1 kid, to Clemson. So there's a number of people here, Cam, asking if Miami can take advantage of bad pub from Florida in the recruiting battles.
It needs to start with wins on the field, like August the 24th at 7 p.m. at Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida. But yeah, it all kind of spun from the Chris Steele situation. His roommate was a quarterback at Florida who's now, I think, leaving Florida, who was accused of sexual assault by 2 different women from the same night, I want to say that situation was. And Chris Steele did approach the administration and coaching staff with his issue or concerns. He wanted a room change. He's like, I don't want to be around this dude because, shady stuff going on, allegedly, is what he was said. And that was ignored. And so then Chris Steele left and he transferred to Oregon. He just announced yesterday that is where he's going to end up, probably redshirt this year because of NCAA transfer rules before playing next year as a redshirt freshman. And then a gang of 2021 kids decommitted from Florida. I think it was like 4 or 5 of their, and they were very good players that like everybody wants. I forget all their names: Bryce Langston, Trevante Rucker, 2 of them, and there's a couple more who also decommitted. And then Lakeland, that's where the Pouncey twins went. That's where, a bunch of guys from there, have gone to Florida. And then DeMarcus Bowman, who, Florida fans had pretty much, written in ink as being in their class. And I also as well said Miami needs to not recruit that kid because he's going to go to Florida. he decided he wants to go to Clemson. And that's a big miss for them because, like, yeah, all the Florida fans for years are like, okay, DeMarcus Bowman is that dude, and he's going to come to Florida. He's going to be the next great, Lakeland Gator. Chris Rainey, another guy, also who went up there from Lakeland to Florida and everything. So you're like, oh, yeah, like this is our pipeline. Like, guys from modern day or whatever, they go to USC. So kids from Lakeland, they come to Florida, except for Bowman is now going to go to Clemson instead. So, yeah, there's been, the decommitments in 2021. There's been that's a huge, gigantic miss for them in 2020 at running back. So is it possible that Miami takes advantage? Yes, it is. But that has to start with wins. Excuse me, it cannot start with talk. It cannot start with negative recruiting. It cannot start with, facilities or it has to be a tangible work product in the form of winning football games. And if Miami does that, then the door is open to following up with all the other recruiting things to make that happen. So it's not assured in any way. But the first step to even going down the path of taking advantage of what seems to be a little bit of unsettling in Florida's recruiting right now is wins on the field, especially head-to-head. So that season opener would be great. That week in October or whenever that is that we play Florida State, I think, yes, first weekend of October, that needs to be a win because you're showing against the teams in this state that we have a better product right now. And if you come join us, we're going to continue to build that in the right way. We're going to close this depth gap against Clemson and all these kind of things. But yeah, it has to start with wins, but the door has been opened by the University of Florida recently with the things that are going on. And then what's his name? The coach, Dan Mullen, he made a comment today about he was asked point blank if he has a zero tolerance policy in terms of domestic abuse or violence against women for his players in this program. And his answer was not equivocal on that. He was definitely not very firm with that. And then he cited Jeffrey Simmons, who had like a very viral experience of he put his hands on a woman in high school, and then he played for Dan Mullen at Mississippi State and said, well, if things, whatever, he kind of hedged his bets, and that was a little troubling. So, I mean, if I were a coach from another program, in light of him saying that and having done that with Jeffrey Simmons and the Jalen Jones situation, I could easily see how things could fall apart for Florida's recruiting. In that way. And that's not, I mean, yeah, people talk about it in negative recruiting, but it's just comparatively, like Miami had guys who were accused of sexual assault and, a couple of years ago, and they were gone that day, period. Like, end of story. And that doesn't happen everywhere. And that's all you have to say. You don't even have to really bring all of that other side up. But yeah, that's just kind of, and again, everything in the Jalen Jones situation is alleged. I'm not saying that he did. I'm saying, that is what has been alleged to have happened. But yeah, with that, and again, getting back to the heart of the question, starting with a win on August the 24th, that's how you get into the game of taking advantage of Florida's failings in recruiting this year.
We are not taking any more phone calls. Thanks for the effort, but we are coming near the end of our time.
I'll take one more if there's somebody who's calling.
So the phone, the call is off the table, unfortunately.
Okay.
But we do have another question that includes a contribution, so we will honor the contribution. Thank you so much, J Love T. Cam was Miami's 2016 squad. Of course, that was the one that I believe lost 4 consecutive games mid-season. Came back, finished 8-4. Pretty much handled West Virginia something like 31-14 in the bowl game to finish 9-4. Was that team championship caliber, or am I overreacting and think they were overrated?
Let's see. So yeah, that season was 9-4. Oh yeah, that was when we lost to Florida State on the block at the Rock, and then North Carolina the next week was a terrible game in the rain, and then at Virginia. We lost, Virginia Tech, on that Thursday night. We got blown out, and then I went to Notre Dame, and I saw that loss personally. That should not have been a loss to a terrible, terrible Notre Dame team. Yeah, no, that wasn't championship caliber. I'm sorry. I mean, yeah, we did, and you were right about that score, Mark, 31-14 against number 14 Virginia in the Camping World Bowl, or what was Russell Athletic Bowl at the time. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that was a championship caliber team. I still think that there were too many holes. And that was a team with a Mark D'Onofrio defense still. That was – wait, 16. No, that was Mark Richt's first year. 16, 17, 18.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, that was Mark Richt's first year. I mean, there was talent. I don't know. I don't think it was championship caliber. I mean, Stacey Coley was still dealing with injuries. Brad Kaya was in his third year, and everything. And I mean, even for setting the record for career passing yards, he still wasn't able to get Miami over the hump in a couple of games. And I know it wasn't all on him, but he never beat Florida State, even though he had some great performances, really bad to start that game. And he threw that touchdown to Stacey Coley that we thought was going to tie the game before, that blocked extra point. Cornelder was on that team. Rayshawn Jenkins, Adrian Colbert was a revelation that year in his 1 year. David Njoku, obviously first-round draft pick. And there was other guys on that team. Amon Richards was setting records. Mark Walton was playing hard. There were guys on that team, but I don't think that was a championship caliber team. I think that could have been a better team. I think that could have been a 2-loss team instead of 4. For sure. I think that's a team that should have gotten to the ACC championship game and did not. Just because you lose to some teams you shouldn't have lost to. I mean, North Carolina that year, 20-13 at home. There's no reason you should have lost that game. At Virginia Tech, I mean, that's a game that we should not have lost, and they were the team who ended up going to the ACC championship game that year. But that team
was pretty good, that Virginia Tech team with Isaiah Ford and Bucky Hodges and those guys on offense.
Right, they did, and they just came out and punched us in the mouth. I mean,
they had a D-line that was really good.
Yeah, it was turned up there in Blacksburg that Thursday night, and we were kind of a little shell shocked after losing to Florida State and North Carolina, and
Let me guess that score. 37-16.
37-16 is correct, sir.
I remember scores. But anyway.
I mean, yeah, we lost by 3 touchdowns, but I mean, and that was a year where
it was closer than that, though.
It really wasn't, though. Honestly, it was.
I thought it got away late.
A little bit, but that was a team that needed to learn how to win. And remember, I was just talking about that earlier, how in 2017, Miami found a way to win all those games. That was because in 2016, they let Florida State, beat them not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times in a row. They had real estate inside of our heads, behind our eyes and between our ears. Like, that's where Florida State lived. And they broke the middle of that season. That season could have been way better. Again, I don't think championship caliber, but that could have been a 2, maybe 3-loss team, including a ACC championship game appearance. But yeah, I don't think it was championship caliber. I think that maybe that's a little bit of revisionist history to think that we could have been that good, but I think that we could have been better than we were.
All right, we got to let Cam go here very soon. I've got to go as well. We were committed to 1 hour, but I've got Zoe who jumped on the line here, and he's on the phone right now. Zoe, what's going on, man?
One question for Cam, man. Thanks, Mark.
Of course.
Cam, once again, doing great job, man. I appreciate your show. But I got one question for Cam. Cam, are you still doing your brunch this year on the 24th? And do you have a venue yet?
I am doing I plan to do a happy hour or meet and greet in Orlando. I don't know which day, and I do not have a venue secured, even though I'm starting to reach out to a couple.
Okay. If you need a venue, let me know. I'll talk to the guys at Duffy's. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
Let me know about that. And I have one statement for George. Stay off the stickies of ickies, man, and put the beer down. You're delusional. That's it. I love you guys, man. Y'all keep up the great work, man. And 20,000 is your next goal, Mark.
Thanks, Zoe. I appreciate it. You're the man. Thank you so much for the support. You know I'm with you all the time.
Yeah. Hey, Zoe.
Man, y'all guys be good, man. Love watching the show, man.
Hey, either tweet me or DM me, and we'll talk about that.
All right. I DM you. And I can get you in with And I don't know if you've been to Duffy's in Orlando, but it is beautiful. They got like 1,000.
We'll work it out. Just DM me and we'll talk.
I am showing up that weekend.
Come through.
Yeah, because I got
it's the only college football game in town. I'm the voice of college football. We got to make big moves. Sure.
Right. DM me or email me or something, and we'll talk.
T-shirts getting made as well. You and Cam.
And
your name on it and Cam's name on it with y'all channels. And
you know what my name is? It's the voice of college football.
Yeah.
The voice of college football. Mark Rogers, the voice of college football.
All right. You're something else, man.
Nice. All right, so yeah, I appreciate it. Like I said, so just reach out and we'll talk, buddy.
Thanks, so appreciate it. All right, everyone. Again, State of the U, Cam Underwood, the rest of the crew, the best that they've ever had collectively. You got to catch him and the rest of the staff there for Miami football and sports coverage. Keep it locked in here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. And again, I urge you, take a few seconds, go out there, grab people on social media that you know that love college football, Miami in particular. We could have 1,000 people on here for these shows within the next couple months with your help. Anything from you, Cam?
Yeah, I'm going to just do my normal plug really quickly. You know, stateoftheu.com, facebook.com/thestateoftheu. On Twitter, we're at the State of the U, and my personal is at Underwood Sports. Feel free to follow any and all our writers. They have their Twitter accounts, usually most of them linked to their posts. Speaking of our writers, we just brought in a new crew of contributors, and they're getting started to crank out great content for you guys as we're putting together the summer schedule. And one of our top guys now, Marshall Thomas, he just started, kicked us off with 100 greatest plays in Miami Hurricanes football history. Today was play number 100. I will not tell you what that is because I want you to go to the website and read it. So we're going to have 100 of those, so one a day all the way up until August, like the 22nd. We're going to have those running all through the summer and plenty more great content for you. So please come check us out. And yeah, if you're a Miami Hurricanes fan, you should be there already. If you're not, then, you know, come see how it's done. And for everybody, come fan with us.
Cam, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for the time. You have a great rest of your week and weekend.
Mark, you do the same. And I'm looking at it, and we went 1 hour and 7 minutes, and that's not too much over. So not a problem.
Okay. Thanks so much, Cam.
See you.
And thank you, everyone. I am getting on the line here in a few minutes with Steve Hellwagon from Bucknuts, but that is going to be a recorded piece that we say for 247 Sports, and it's going to be posted here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, first thing in the AM. Thank you so much, everyone. I am going to be working on another live stream. So here in the next few weeks, I believe that we're going to select another program to focus our college football efforts on another live stream as we build this out step by step by step by step. It just gets better and better and better and better and better. So you're along for the ride, and I couldn't do it without you. Otherwise, I posted on Facebook the other day. I didn't say that we got to 10,000 subscribers. I didn't say I got to 10,000 subscribers. What I said was you got to 10,000 subscribers. You did the work. You guys made it happen. I just sat here and talked and did my best to provide the content. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. For any of the wonderful comments that I missed in responding to, I appreciate that there's too many to get to. So I appreciate all the great comments, and thank you so much for your help. And we are going to have content coming at you like we always do each and every day. So keep it locked in here. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We will see all of you very soon. I'll give one more glance to the live chat, and then I'm on the line with Steve Hellwagon from Bucknuts, and you're going to see that conversation tomorrow morning.